everybody, to this Hortonworks introduction aimed at our Hortonworks partners. I'm Sean Conley. I focus on corporate strategy for Hortonworks. And I'll take you through a little bit of the context and backdrop within which Hortonworks operates, a little delve into our open source model, as well as sort of trends, as well as customer adoption stories and journeys along the way. Just to sort of kick things off, give you a little context on Hortonworks. We were founded in 2011, July 2011. And just about a year ago, December 2014, we went public. We were the first Hadoop focused vendor to go public. We trade on the NASDAQ, HDP. Our model is a 100% open source software model, and I'll cover a little bit about open source in this presentation. We have a little over 800 employees spanning 16 different countries, so we are global. The support and services we provide are global. The partners that we go to market clearly are global. And our focus really is very strongly on serving our subscription customers, those who are using our Hortonworks data platform and our new Hortonworks data flow platform, which I'll cover briefly in this session. And really making our customers successful in the use of the technology and helping them along their big data journey. Again, like I said, this particular webcast is aimed at our partners. We have over 1,500 plus technology partners spanning system integrators, training partners, as well as software vendors, hardware vendors, and a sort of broad base of technology partners. So let me set the context for how and where we focus, and paint a bit of the value proposition into which we play. And the first step on this is to really paint the picture of the traditional world of data management. Historically, over the past few decades, there's clearly been a lot of application development, a lot of databases, whether they're mainframe databases or relational databases, have been built for specific applications that run the business. If we fast forward to today, constraining data to specific apps causes a bit of a siloing problem within the enterprise, and they don't have visibility or insight across all of their data. That world has been built for structured data, and the technologies that power those systems don't scale either from a cost perspective and or from a technology perspective. So the traditional world of data management, just in and of itself has been slowing down the pace and not being able to drive maximum value for enterprises. And if we look at today's world, where it's not just about those traditional data sources, as exemplified in this slide in the lower left, but there's a whole slew of new sources of data that we at Hortonworks shorthand way of describing it as the Internet of Anything data. That could be sensors and machines, geolocation data. These days, virtually everything has a GPS location or some sort of geolocation tag. Server logs, click streams, social media, files and emails, sort of the whole Internet of Anything. So it's Internet of Things as well as the traditional Internet, as well as files and emails and things like that. You could think of as the Internet of Anything. Mostly multi-structured data, mostly data that hasn't been traditionally stored before in relational databases or traditional application stores. And that new data, as well as traditional data, is growing exponentially. So the opportunity for businesses in this new world is how can they unlock transformational value from all data, whether it's data in motion, data at rest, data across various applications. How do you break down the silos and get all that data in one spot and be able to manage that data easily so you can derive value from it? And so our vision at Hortonworks has really been about enabling smart or intelligent applications, if you will, by enabling our customers to manage all of their data, whether it's data in motion, data at rest, building modern applications on top of that in a way where you can get the benefits of the here and now insights, the perishable insights, if you will, as well as the full, rich fidelity of historical insights that have happened over the prior months, quarters, years, or what have you. And so our focus is on enabling modern data applications from that combination of data in motion and data at rest. And then even more so is how do you unlock these new types of applications that are being built on the combination? And in particular, over the course of 2015, and I would say the tail end of 2014, we saw the rise of Internet of Things use cases, as well as the importance of cybersecurity and real-time threat detection and prevention type applications that can make best use of this data in motion and data at rest. So we will continue as a business to work with our partners to enable those types of modern data applications. And as a vendor, we'll focus on creating frameworks and other accelerators to help make it easier to create those applications that are based on the data in motion and data at rest that's available out there. So with that as context, earlier in 2015, about mid-year, Tom Davenport wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about the shift to a new data architecture. And so that traditional siloed world is changing, and Tom speaks to that very specifically. He basically says the architectural revolution won't be televised, but it will be revolutionary. And he talks about the power of open source tools and big data and the advantages of open source technologies such as Apache Hadoop and other open source tools. At Hortonworks, since our business is based on 100% open source, I would say we violently agree with Tom's thesis, if you will. And so why open source? What's the value of open source, and why does that make a difference in this new era? And, I guess one of the founding principles, if you will, that Hortonworks was founded on back in 2011 is our firm belief that innovation happens best not in isolation, but in collaboration. And what that means is when you are actually able to bring engineers and community members across many different companies to bear on a particular problem, that innovation curve can accelerate quite dramatically. Whereas a proprietary approach, and my background, I've been both within open source as well as commercial software companies. The proprietary approach can plateau because you can only bring so many of your own employees to bear on a particular problem. When you can get the scale opportunity, particularly in successful collaborative open source efforts, that innovation curve can accelerate quite dramatically. At Hortonworks, the bulk of our technology is comprised across a few dozen Apache Software Foundation projects. Apache Hadoop is just one of those few dozen technologies. So I think it's worth describing a little bit about the Apache Software Foundation for those who are less familiar with Apache. Many may be familiar with the Apache Web Server, which has been around for well over a decade and powers 70+% of the websites globally. But the Apache Software Foundation, many folks are less familiar with, and it's an independent nonprofit corporation that governs a broad community of open source software projects for the public good. And they provide the necessary infrastructure and legal frameworks for each project. So they are not a vendor. They do not provide support for the technologies. They foster open source communities, basically, and provide them the frameworks, both legal and otherwise, for success. And each individual Apache project is, as I like to say, beautiful to the Apache Software Foundation. There's no single project that's better than any other. And what you'll find in the Apache ecosystem is at times you'll find technologies that are very similar. At Hortonworks, we invest in two technologies as an example, Apache HBase, which is a NoSQL database, and Apache Accumulo, which is also a NoSQL database that runs on Hadoop. Both of them have very similar traits. They both are Apache Software Foundation projects, and they both get equal support from Apache, and it's up to those projects to drive their own innovation and come up with a collaborative model for success for the individual project. As a vendor in this space, like I said, we participate in a wide range of projects. And there are many besides Apache Hadoop and the Apache web server. Apache Storm was created at Twitter. Apache Hadoop, as I mentioned before, was a technology created by Yahoo. Apache Spark, which is very exciting, relatively new technology over the past few years, started at Berkeley and is now an Apache project over the past year or so. Apache NiFi arose from technology that was created within the NSA. Apache Hive, which is a SQL technology, was created by Facebook, and that runs on the Hadoop ecosystem. And there's just a range of other technologies such as Apache Kafka from LinkedIn and HBase, which originated from a company called PowerSet, et cetera. And there are new technologies like Zeppelin and Flink that continue to innovate within the open source community. And so this innovation curve gets to accelerate quite dramatically. So with that as background and with this Apache Software Foundation as sort of give you a little bit of what its focus is and what its role is, why do companies participate in open source? So at Hortonworks, our business model is clearly focused on open source, but we also have a range of our partners as well as our customers who choose to participate in open source as well. And the reasons vary. It could be around recruiting top talent. If you look at today's graduates, computer science and software engineering graduates, many of them have their portfolios that are available on GitHub, and these are open source portfolios. And that's just how they expect to do their work. So that the new recruitment, wave is open source savvy. You may have technology you want to attract and grow a community around, or you may want to invest in particular areas to speed strategic areas of innovation for yourself. Participation may mean you get first mover advantage within a particular vertical sector, for instance. And we have some customers within a data governance initiative that we created just about a year ago. And we have participants across financial services, healthcare, oil and gas, et cetera. And they're participating in order to address data governance needs, but in a way where they can get first mover advantage. And ultimately, some participate to improve margins and open up new revenue streams. I'll point you to an interesting survey Black Duck Software conducts every year. I believe this is the 9th year they've conducted this Future of Open Source survey. Their statistics are interesting in that 78% of organizations run part or all of the operations on open source software, and less than 3% don't use open source in any way. So it's very prevalent in the use. Even in cloud services, if you look across the Amazon, Azure, and Google clouds, you'll find a lot of open source that are powering those cloud services. 66% of the survey respondents take an open source first approach. 64% participate in open source projects in some form or fashion or otherwise, where they may be contributing ideas, new features, maybe helping to maintain the documentation and other items, as well as maybe new features. And then 88% expect to increase their contributions to open source projects over the next 2 to 3 years. So open source participation is on the rise, and I think in part it's because you're getting a lot of new graduates. That's just how they operate. And you're getting a lot of companies that have evolved their thinking around open source to not be just about what's the open source license and can I legally use it, to actually how do I participate in a way to further my business interests and attract and grow communities, et cetera. So at Hortonworks specifically, it's important for our partners as well as our customers to understand that our model is clearly aimed at driving an enterprise-focused roadmap. The way we do that, since we do all of our work within many dozens of Apache Software Foundation projects, is that we innovate within those projects to accelerate enterprise-focused capabilities, whether that's improving the SQL capabilities of Hive via the Stinger initiative that's been running for the past few years, or getting all projects on top of Yarn as the data operating system so you can get economies of scale and you can get mixed workloads running in a Hadoop cluster, or storage tiering for hot, warm, cold storage scenarios, security across the range of data access components such as Storm and Kafka and more. Driving innovation in there in a way that's relevant to enterprises is key. Incubating new projects, particularly in the areas of security, governance, and operations, which are enterprise-focused requirements, is key. There's a new project that we recently incubated called Apache Metron. It was derived from an open source technology called OpenSOC, Security Operations Center. That's what SOC stands for, and it's a real-time cybersecurity framework that can run on Hadoop and related technologies. So incubating new projects to get more people to drive the innovation is part of the model. We've also acquired and contributed to IP. We acquired a company called XA Secure, and we flipped their proprietary software into Apache as Apache Ranger for a security administration and authorization technology. And then we partner with folks like yourself to create jointly engineered solutions that accelerate enterprise adoption and enable clean consumption of your solutions on top of Hortonworks technology or integrated with Hortonworks technology. And then we'll rally the ecosystem of partners and customers and others around specific initiatives to jointly work within the projects towards common goals. So with that, I won't cover all the Apache projects that are in the Hortonworks offerings, but our assignment of engineers, or in Apache speak, committers. Committer is someone who has earned their stripes within the particular project to check in code and to create features and review others who may be contributing code. They're sort of the gatekeepers, if you will, for the projects and the ones who are trying to attract new members. That's where our engineers spend their time, and we do so in a way to be able to drive enterprise roadmap. What we sell, so in many cases, folks view it as open source software. So, how do you actually derive, revenues, if you will? And, since we're a publicly traded company, we do have quarterly earnings calls. 65 to 70% of our revenues are comprised from our, annual software support subscriptions, both for the Hortonworks Data Platform, which is our Hadoop-based platform, as well as our Hortonworks Dataflow solution. And that subscription provides support coverage, access to a service called SmartSense, which can get telemetry into the customer's clusters to be able to do proactive configuration, capacity planning, and performance tuning for them so they can run their clusters and achieve their workloads easily, as well as self-paced learning and training and a way for customers to interact with us and influence the direction of the technology. Each of our products releases have multi-year maintenance, so we do work on older versions of the various Apache projects to make sure that we don't force our customers to have to upgrade to newer versions all the time. So we do multi-year maintenance prior releases, which is what enterprise customers expect from a enterprise software vendor. So with that as backdrop, I want to transition a little bit into from the the open source model, the why participate, what the Hortonworks model is, and the value that we focus on as a business. Let's transition a little bit into what are the solutions that we're enabling and why are they important? And we'll close out on that topic as sort of the last piece, if you will, of this particular introductory session. I'll use Gartner's top 10 strategic technology trends for 2016 as sort of input, if you will. And if you read through, the Gartner materials, they talk about the digital mesh, smart machines, the new IT reality, and different, capabilities and solutions, whether it's, information of everything, adaptive security architecture, IoT architecture, what have you. You tease out some of that, you'll see that data, whether it's data in motion, data at rest, or analytics around the data are a common theme across many of these trends that Gartner has identified for 2016. They talk specifically about enabling data-driven business models, that are built on top of advanced machine learning, predictive models, and analytics, and harnessing the Internet of Anything type data, if you will. And then everything is connected in this new world. So aligning the apps and devices and user experiences and getting contextual intelligence in order to create these smart applications that can influence the machines and automate behavior and interactions, whether it's manufacturing and industrial internet use cases, or whether it's consumer-focused type use cases. Enabling prescriptive actions and automating a lot of the tasks is a trend that's playing out, and data is the capital, if you will, that is fueling a lot of this new wave of applications. So I'll close out to make it real and use some of our customers, who tell their story on our website, and encourage you to listen to their videos and access the materials that we share with you as part of the partner portal and elsewhere. But Symantec is powering the Symantec Cloud platform with our Hortonworks data platform, and they ingest and process 500,000 security log messages per second. That's 40 billion messages a day on their security cloud. And they've been able to improve their ability to detect bad guys from 4 hours to 2 seconds. So this is definitely comes from a combination of rich historical data as well as data in motion. And being able to drive that type of response time makes a big difference for the value proposition to their customers. Progressive Insurance is another sort of great example of classic insurance company blending, some of their existing systems with new data types across their web properties, as well as from devices that are placed within the cars as part of their usage-based insurance products. And they're able to leverage those new types of data to provide better insurance products at better prices in a way that, increases customer satisfaction while improving margins on the insurance products that they sell. So it's a win-win, if you will, for both Progressive as well as their customers. And they're using both data in motion and data at rest and creating innovative new data applications on top of that. Noble Energy, in the oil and gas industry is another great example where they're predicting and preventing downtime in their infrastructure, in their oil and gas infrastructure. And that ultimately, they want that to lead to proactive maintenance as well as improved safety. So getting a data lake, if you will, of a lot of their existing infrastructure data, can help them initially prevent downtime, but ultimately can save them money from the maintenance as well as safety standpoint. In the healthcare industry, Cardinal Health is a great example of, they're focused on the future of health and wellness by making healthcare safer and more cost effective. They're focused on connected care, building a smarter supply chain so they can route drugs and other things into the right areas that may need it due to outbreaks or what have you, as well as discovering new insights through analytics. So they're leveraging data in order to transform the level of service they provide, as well as the cost structures for those involved in the healthcare value chain, including the patients themselves. And then finally, single view of customer is a very prevalent use case of ours. Rogers Communications is a great example of a customer, how they're powering their 360-degree view of their customers with a modern data architecture that includes Hortonworks Data Platform, but a range of our partner solutions, data warehouse solutions, advanced analytics solutions, reporting solutions, et cetera. And they have a very robust modern data architecture around their solutions. The new business opportunities that this architecture opens up to them enables them to compete in the fast-paced and competitive cable, wireless, and media markets they focus on, because they're able to get a single view of that customer across all lines of business. So I encourage you to check out a lot of the customer examples and use cases, as well as take advantage of some of the other materials that we create. And in particular, I'll sort of close on one example around the customer journey, if you will, as the placemat slide, as I lovingly refer to it, is it's a great tool for understanding how over the past year and a half, 2 years, we've seen the journey of our customers as they've embraced Hadoop as at the core of their modern data architecture. And in many cases, the journey may start, in one of the 5 of 6 use cases with the goal to get to the upper right of predictive analytics. And in many cases, it may actually start with an active archive or an ETL offload or data warehouse optimization type play, the bottom, left and middle areas, if you will, where costs can be freed up to fund either more robust data enrichment scenarios or data discovery scenarios where we often find technologies such as Spark and others to be able to do modeling and iterative analysis and exploration, if you will, of data. I touched on the Rogers example. There are many across many sectors around single view of customer, supply chain, product, or even single view of GPS location. I'm seeing that as well. So there's a lot of single view type use cases, as well as the advanced predictive analytics use cases. Symantec is a good example of that, as well as others. So in many cases, I'll use this as a framework to engage the various lines of businesses, hear what they want to accomplish, and then to broadly categorize what they may be doing, so you can drill into a particular area and a particular set of use cases, so you can figure out what the broader architecture is beyond just Hortonworks technologies. And each one of these may require different types of partner technologies and others to integrate to come up with a robust data enrichment solution or to do ETL offload efficiently and effectively, et cetera. I make a big deal out of this customer journey slide, and particularly our partners, I encourage you to spend time to learn more about the journey so we can go in and jointly sell and drive value for our joint customers. So with that, the goal of this particular webcast was to provide an introduction to Hortonworks and to paint a picture across the various areas of open source and otherwise, as well as how we drive value for our customers. So the key takeaways I want to leave you with is, Data is core to the new IT agenda. Gartners and others have been predicting it. We've been seeing it in our customer base. And customers are looking for a guide in their journey. Our subscription model focuses us on customer success. So we look with our partners to provide guidance, if you will, for our customers so they can ultimately deploy innovative apps that make a difference for their business. Open source innovation is driving the shift to a new data architecture. And Hadoop and other things are at the core of that architecture. And our open solution taps into budget flexibility, whether it's data architecture optimization, while driving transformational outcomes that come in the area of advanced analytic applications, et cetera. And so we look to partner with folks to be able to drive those types of initiatives and set a vision, a multi-year vision for our customers as they're going on their journey and digesting, if you will, new innovation that continually appears in open source. The innovation pace is just continuing, and in many cases, we need to translate that into how they can leverage that in a transformational way. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like you to encourage you to reach out to your Hortonworks counterparts for any questions, and hopefully that gives you a flavor for Hortonworks, the company, our focus on the open source model, and how we're focused on enabling our customers in their big data journey. So thank you.